thank you so much for the opportunity that we're always learning at BNI. We thank you so much for all the presenters. We ask you this new week, bless the new spirit, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I'm glad to present our speaker today. I'm very honored. I'm going to kindly ask you to unmute your mics, put your hands together, and let's welcome Director to lead us through our session today.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and I hope you had a good weekend. My video is playing hide and seek with me, so I may have to turn it off, but it's okay. So, how do we make learning part of our daily lives? And how do we incorporate this into the way we do work so that we excel in our workplaces and then into our life, just tuck it into our lifestyles? So I'll first give you an overview, a highlight, then we'll delve deep into the whole topic. Now, in our increasingly changing careers, where people change roles more frequently and fluidly and develop in different directions, the ability to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn is vital for long-term success. It helps us increase our readiness for opportunities that change presents and our resilience to the inevitable challenges we'll experience along the way. Adaptive and proactive learners are highly prized assets for organizations, and investing in learning creates long-term dividends for our career development. I'll quote Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi said that live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you are to live forever. Live as if you are to die tomorrow, learn as if you live forever. I'll also quote another person called Phil Collins. Some of you who are old enough know Phil Collins. But Phil Collins said, in learning, you will teach, and in teaching, you will learn. In learning, you will teach, and in teaching, you will learn. So our capacity for learning is becoming the currency we trade on in our careers. Forget about what you studied, the MBA, SCCA, whatever it is. But our capacity for learning is becoming the currency we trade on in our careers. Where we once went to work to learn to do a job, learning now is the job. That when you went to learn to do the job, no, now learning is the real job. Adaptive and proactive learners are highly prized assets in any organization. And when we invest in our learning, we create long-term dividends for our career development. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, shared that when assessing founders of potential investments, he looks for individuals who are infinite learners, who have an infinite learner's curve. That means their learning is infinite. Someone who constantly is learning and quickly. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, echoed the importance of learning when he said, "The learn it all will always do better than the know it all. The learn it all will always do better than the know it all." However, it's not as simple as acquiring new knowledge. In our increasingly changing careers, where people change roles more frequently and fluidly and develop in different directions, the ability to unlearn, learn, and relearn is vital for long-term success. So let's look at these three by tearing them apart. Number one, learning. Since we spend so much time and energy and efforts at our day job, they provide the most significant opportunities for learning. The challenge is that we don't invest intentionally in everyday development. We are so busy with tasks and getting the job done that there's no space left for anything else. Deprioritizing our development is a risky career strategy because it reduces our resilience and ability to respond to the changes happening around us. So let's look at 3 ways we can take ownership of learning at work. Number 1, learn from others. The people you spend time with are a significant source of knowledge. Creating a diverse learning community we will offer you new perspectives and reduce the risk that you'll end up in an echo chamber. Set a goal of having 1 curiosity coffee each month, virtually or in person, with someone you haven't met before. This could be someone in a different department or different division of the company or different location of the company. Someone in your profession at another company who could broaden your knowledge, for instance. You can even extend your curiosity even further by ending each conversation with a question. Ask this person that you have had a curiosity coffee with, is there anyone else you think would be useful for me to connect with? Not only does that create a chance for you to create new connections, but you might also benefit from the direct introduction. Number 2, apart from learning from others, experiment. Experiments help you learn and adopt along the way. There are endless ways you can experiment at work. For example, using different tools to increase interactivity of your virtual presentations. Say, exploring the impact of camera on versus camera off meetings, switching from video to phone calls, or even trying negotiating tactics. For an experiment to be effective, it needs to be conscious choice and labeled as an opportunity for learning. Now, I found this very interesting. Keep learn it all log. That means that keep an inventory of what you're learning, where you track experiments you're running, and where you're learning and what you're learning along the way. It's important that you remember that you should expect some experiments to fail, but that's the nature of experimentation. But as long as you're learning, the takeaway here is that keep a log of whatever you're experimenting and whatever you're learning, and your successes and failures. Number 3, under learning, create a collective curriculum. In this changing environment and changing career, everyone is a learner and everyone is a teacher. Everyone is a learner and everyone is a teacher. As a team, consider how you create a collective curriculum where you're all learning from each other and you're all teaching each other. There are organizations that have effectively used that skills swap, where individuals share one skill, they are happy to help other people learn. For instance, if you know Spanish, then why don't you teach the rest of the people you work with Spanish? Or why don't you learn from the person who knows how to do a certain skill that you don't know? Then this could also be like, say, problem solving that you share together, and you will share the tools and insights together, and then you'll be able to become a lot better. But this is in a very structured way so that there is movement from A to B, where B is better than A. And this creates a continuous learning culture within the organization. Skill swap, that's what they call them. Skill swaps are a good example of democratized development where everyone has something to contribute and is learning continuously. Let's look at something else. Number 2, we said learning is number 1. Number 2 is unlearning. Unlearning means letting go of the safe and familiar and replacing it with something new and unknown. So you let go of what has been safe and familiar, but you replace it with something unknown. Skills and behavior that helped you get where you are can actually hold you back from getting where you want to be. For example, A leader may need to unlearn their default of always being the person who speaks first in the meetings. Or a new manager may need to unlearn ways of saying yes to their work as their workload increases. So they learn to say no. I need to mute someone. Hold on. Need to mute someone. Someone is getting me some. Let me see. Oh, now it's okay. Thank you. Let me go back to my presentation. So we need to unlearn some things the way we've been doing them. I gave an example, like if you're the team leader, you may need to unlearn to be the first to speak. You may need to unlearn to be the last to speak. You may need to unlearn to be the one to bless the meeting. So there are things that we always need to unlearn, but we need to make a conscious decision to unlearn some things. During the pandemic, we're all forced to unlearn some aspects of our lives, like how we collaborated on work or what schools look like for our kids. Unlearning feels very uncomfortable, but for the past couple of years, they reminded us at how adaptable we can be. Here are 3 ways we can make unlearning an active part of our work. Number 1, connect with challengers. Challengers are people who challenge the way you think. We unlearn when we look at a problem or an opportunity through a new lens. This is more likely to happen if we are spending time with people who challenge us and think differently than we do. Who on your team has controversial views or contrary views to the way you actually think? Those people are an asset and not a liability. The purpose of connecting with challengers is not to agree or debate, but to listen and consider, what can I learn from this person? Who is the most controversial person on your team? And how do you connect with them? And what can you learn from them? Many times, we actually distance from them because we see them as opposition. Seek out people who have an opposite experience from the way you see from yours. For example, if you work in a large organization, find someone who only has worked for themselves. If you have 25 years of experience, like some of you, find someone starting out at work. People who've made different choices, people who are single, who are married, who have been married and now are single, people who have done all these kinds of things, people who dropped out of school and rejoined school, and keep learning from them. Ask them, how would you approach this challenge? Or what has been your experience in this situation? Those are good examples of questions that you would ask them. The other way you can unlearn is identify habits and holdbacks. Let me explain what this means. We all have habits that helped us get where we are. However, habits that create blind spots that stop us from being different. Let me read that again. Habits can create blind spots that stop us from seeing different ways of doing things and new approaches to try out things. So the very habits that you have can stop you from seeing things in a different ways. Our brains use habits to create mental shortcuts that may make us miss out on opportunities to reflect and to unlearn as an automatic response. So what is the work to be done? Create a habit tracker. Write down all the actions and activities you do by default over the course of the week. Pick 3 habits to consciously unlearn and try out new ways of working. For example, if you're the one who habitually sets up meetings, you can decide to give that to someone else. If you're the one who habitually does problem solving, you can give that to someone else. But there are also small habits you can learn. You can learn how to greet people, how to be the first to greet someone. You can learn to express gratitude every day and then see how you you go along the way. You'll have unlearned your habit of just walking in and saying hello to no one. But the third way you can unlearn is by asking what they call propelling questions. Propelling questions reset our status quo and encourage us to explore different ways of doing things. I'll give you an example.
Director, I'm
Yes,
just
please.
kindly requesting Samuel Joko to mute his microphone.
Okay. Samuel Joko, please. Thou shalt mute your mic. Thank you so much. So propelling questions are questions as these. How might we? How could I? What would happen if? How might we increase sales in Kabale? How could I double my learning skills? What could happen if we went upstairs and these guys came downstairs? What could happen if we only worked on weekends? What could happen if we worked 3 days a week? That, even as just for curiosity's sake, can help you unlearn so many things that you have up your sleeves. There's an experiment we want to try out where people work for 3 days and then take a day off and then work another 3 days. But it is how could we change our working days, not the normal 5 days and then 2 days. Suppose we do 3 days and 1 and then 3 and 1 and we move that. So that way we are unlearning ways of doing things the old way. Now, please do not leak this. My staff even don't know that I'm wanting to experiment the 3 and 1. So I've just told you as a sassy. To help us even do this propelling question better, you can ask a peer, for instance. Imagine it's 2030. What 3 significant changes do you see happening in your industry? And indeed, ask yourself, by 2030, what are the 3 significant changes that would have happened in your industry? Number 2, you can ask, how might you divide your role between you and a robot? So if the robot came into work tomorrow, what will the robot do and what will you do? Or will the robot do all the work that you actually do? Number 3, which of your strengths would be most useful if your organization doubled in size? You may find that if your organization doubled in size, you would have no strength to deploy. Or if the organization halved in size, which of your strengths will become more useful in the organization? And if you don't know, then you will contribute less in the organization. Number 4, how could you transfer your talents if your industry disappeared overnight? To which industry would your talents be appreciated? Number 5, if you are rebuilding this business tomorrow, what would you do differently? That would be an interesting way of learning, of unlearning ways that we have done things a certain way. So we've so far covered learning, unlearning, and now let's dive into the last one, which is relearning. Relearning is recognizing that how we apply our strength is always changing and that our potential is always work in progress. You have never arrived. And if you think you have arrived, then you have something that will hit you that you want to know. We need to regularly assess our abilities and how they need to be adapted for our current context. For example, collaboration remains as important as ever, but maybe you're relearning how to do it in a hybrid world of work. Or maybe you've made a career change and you're relearning what it looks like to transfer your talents to a new setting. Maybe you're a CEO of an organization, now you're a pastor, or vice versa. So how can you relearn other things that you had, aspects that you had in one field, and then relearn them in another field in the face of change? Let's look at 3 things under relearning. Number 1, stretch your strengths. One of the ways you make your strengths stronger is to use them in many different situations as possible. If you're a good negotiator at work, try using those strengths at home. If you become too comfortable applying them in the same way, your development stalls. Strength solving involves relearning how to use your strengths to offer support and solve problems outside of your day-to-day work. This could be in your networks, in your organizations, or the places where you volunteer, maybe say at church, or even side projects that you run. So that would be very interesting to see how you use other things, other strengths in another setting. Number 2, get fresh-eyed feedback. Getting to look at your skills from someone else's perspective will help you identify opportunities for you to relearn. Asking for feedback can help open your eyes to your development blind spots and take back control of your growth. When your objective is to relearn, we find that presenting people with a better questions really works very well. Let me give you an example. How could I make my presentation even better? You're asking people around you. How could I make our team meetings even better? People will give you new feedback that will make your meetings much better. I read somewhere, I remember that meetings work well when you have something to eat in the meeting. So if you have a bowl of apples, that could go a long way in helping meetings be more vibrant and energy in the meeting. Number 3, relearn resilience. Relearning takes resilience because there's a curve that there's a lady called Whitney Johnson talks about the S-curve of learning, but that would be a topic for another day. So it takes resilience to learn. You have to be very optimistic about the progress that you're making, or else you'll be tempted to give up. Refocusing on what is working well can help you continue moving forward. Try every day writing down 3 small successes at the end of the day for 2 weeks. Your success can come from your personal or professional life, though it can be hard to spot them at first. The more you do this, the easier it will get. So just write down whatever progress you're making every day and 3 small successes. A very small success could include asking one person for feedback, helping a colleague prepare for a presentation, or even encouraging your toddler to eat vegetables. Everything that you're learning, please journal it down so that you're able to catalog all these. By the end of 2 weeks, you'll have 42 very small successes, and that is very important for you to feel motivated and create momentum going forward. The one thing is, we can't predict how our careers will develop or what the world of work will look like in the future. But investing in the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn will help us increase our readiness for the opportunities that change presents, and our resilience to the inevitable challenges we'll experience along the way. I'll end with this quotation from Antithesis. He quotes and says, "The most useful piece of learning," let me repeat that. "The most useful piece of learning for the users of life is to unlearn what is untrue." I'll repeat that. The most useful piece of learning for the users of life is to unlearn what is untrue. My question to you as we end is, what have you unlearned so far in this year? Thank you so much. I'll throw it back to you, Chairman Sidi, for any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Director. I would like to open up the floor in case you have any questions. Please shoot up your hand, and let's get us Director in these last 5 minutes. There are just a few comments. Director, some of your staff say they're on call. Then Pastor Evelyn says there's an awesome way to work. It will help. That's an awesome way to work. It will help with employer satisfaction. I think that's the, I don't know if that was the meetings or the learnings. So yes, in case you have any questions, please raise your hand, and let's get to ask Director in these last 4 minutes. Director, my question for you would be on on trying to unlearn. Isn't it a risky bet? Because what if I stop doing the things that are actually making me successful? So in the process of trying to unlearn, when we look at the habits, looking at our habits, is there a way we can track and say, these are the habits that we can't touch, these are the habits that are paramount, and maybe these are the habits that we can touch? Because in the process of trying to change some habits or trying to change some things as a leader, it might cost the company a lot in profits.
My response would be this. In many times, you find that for you as a leader, you have to unlearn so many things and help your people see that you're unlearning. You're the chief unlearner that will encourage your team to actually unlearn. Let me give you an example. So if someone doesn't come to the office today, does that mean they're not working? Maybe it is you who needs to unlearn how to measure people who are working remotely and who may not turn up in the office. So be comfortable that people are working even if they're not in the four walls of the office. So there you need to unlearn the ways of doing things. Maybe someone will, submit the report at midnight or 2 a.m. You need to unlearn. Does that mean, for the people who go to church on this call, does that mean that if I'm not in church physically, I have not prayed? Maybe I prefer to what? Pray online. So you have to be the chief unlearner and deal with your discomfort yourself. Then the rest of your team will actually follow. These days, there's hardly any meeting you can go for and people don't ask for a Zoom link. So be comfortable and be comfortable. Even in SOPB, people are like, they send the link. In one way or the other, I mean, in Barara, I mean, Gulu, and whatever. And so for you as the leader, you have to be the chief unlearner to say, it is okay. If there's any discomfort I'm feeling, it is me who has to reconcile with my own demon. But it is the team that I have to inspire to unlearn the things that have worked a certain way. I see Peter Busenje has a hand.
Yes, Peter, please go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Director, for this great session. Mine is a quick one. How do you create a continuously learning environment? In my former place of work, I bought over 100 self-help and developmental books and created a library. But by the time I left, the books were hardly read. So how do you create a continuous learning environment within your organization, which is not necessarily related to the skills and tasks that are required for the jobs, but just so that the employees can continuously have a yearning to learn? Thank you.
That's an interesting question. You have to reward, you have to recognize, you have to also recruit people who learn, who are bound to learn and want to learn. If you don't get that fish at the gate, then there is no way you'll weed that out. I'll give you an example. So when I used to recruit, when I used to be involved in hiring, on the very first interview, I would give you 7 habits of highly effective people. So and then I'll tell you, Peter, this is 7 habits. Go read it. Let's meet next Monday. And I expect you to read the 7 habits of highly effective people in 1 week. So next Monday we meet and we review the book. So if you turn up and you've only read 1 habit or 2, that's the end of the interview. So if you want to have learners, recruit learners. But the other thing that I listened to last week, there's this guy who said that for him, there are books that they have recommended. When you read the book and finish the book, you're rewarded with $100. Try that out in your organization. Reward people for reading, and their pay per hour goes up by $1. So find a way of rewarding the people who read and rewarding ideas that are definitely from a book, rather than coming to a meeting and no one is replacing any framework. People are just boxing out of what their mothers told them. You find that people will then begin to learn, and then you'll have a bigger part of your organization as a learning organization. But also, lastly, don't be the sage on stage. Sometimes we as leaders enjoy being the person to run to, the go-to. So you say, yes, increase the price. No, decrease that one turn left, that one paint it blue, paint it black. But empower these people and tell them that the skills that you're teaching are actually from the books that you're reading, and they should read those books. If someone runs to you with a problem, refer them to an HBR article for them to solve. There you will actually create a learning culture in the organization. But also talk about your learning. If you don't talk about your learning, then people will not be attracted to learning. Is it okay to find yourself at a point where you need to learn what you unlearned? Like what? You know, let me give you an example. You may find in Marshall Goldsmith talks about certain things that you need to unlearn. Let me give you an example. I know many of you go to church. Many of you are at church, so this may not apply to you. But if you find yourself swearing a lot, then you need to unlearn that. So you may have to pay people to catch you swearing, and then when they catch you swearing next time, you pay them so that you kill that habit of swearing. But whatever it is, you may say that I need to learn how to pray. So be the one in a meeting to lead the prayer. You may say I'll be the one to make a small commitment device. Next week I'll be the one to close the meeting with a prayer, and thereafter you'll learn and exercise that muscle too. You'll unlearn not praying. If you're the silent kind of person, you need to unlearn that and learn to make the first contribution in the meeting, in the next meeting you will have. Tell your boss that you're making the first contribution in the next meeting this week. I think we ought to end there. Let's go make money. Not so, Chairman.
Thank you, Director. See you all tomorrow.